guys, welcome to another voiceover. My name is Takumi and I just got up, but I thought I'd start the voiceover, and this time I'm gonna show you guys what I've been up to. So basically tried Clip Art Studio since I heard, a lot of artists use it for line art and that it's recommended, so I gave it a try and it's very true. Doing line art on clip art is pretty good, and I would say makes my life a lot easier. So, this is the lines I've done so far. It's pretty similar to Photoshop, um, but it's got really good pressure, just like Paint Tool Sai, but with a bit more functionality. So I've just been using the pen tool, the G Pen for line art really. And I still have to try the other brushes, but so far so good. So I'm looking forward to experimenting with this program further. Other than that, I brought you guys here because I've been testing out, um, like looking up ways to fill in the line, so to say. And it's interesting because in order to do that, I was looking up a tutorial online on how to fill up basic spaces fast. So first I need a blank canvas because I did have a background base which was a 3D scene I plan to modify later on, but in order to fill in the backgrounds um, or the lines, first I'm gonna go with a blank um, blank canvas, and then I need my lines right there, and then I'm going to start off by filling in her top. So I did kind of experiment a little bit beforehand before I showed you guys, so I knew what I was doing. So um, I think some of you already know how to do this, but it was my first time, so I basically switched between this fill bucket tool and this one. So this one kind of fills it in like this based off of um, the lines usually, and there's some options for you to play around with to make the fill in a bit more better. But usually I would just kind of fill it in a little bit. If if it gets out of line, that's okay. I can just like erase it, but most of it is kind of filled in, which is good. Sometimes I'm just not gonna get like a perfect fill in, that's okay. So I just go adjust it or just fill it in manually. But most of it is filled in, so that's good enough. And also I want to put all my line art on multiply. Okay, let me just see how it looks with the background. Yeah, this still looks decent. So going back to my top layer, I think I'm missing like a tiny little bit of pixels here, so let's just fill that in. And that is my top. And then I have another red top layer. So this is my base color. I referenced the color scheme again after this piece of art from her cinematic. It was part of the scene, and I just like the color a lot from it. So, yep, color scheme inspired by that. Going back to here, going back to the fill bucket, again using the second one, which I've been using quite a lot. So we'll just try our best to fill this little part in. Sometimes you just can't get it, but oh, oh god, nope, 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 nope. Sometimes it does that too. Okay, I'll just do that manually. Okay, going back to the pen tool, I will do a manual fill in just to fix some of these small areas. But in general, this is so much faster than what I normally do with in Photoshop, which is using the lasso tool to select the area, and that is done by hand, which my hand is kind of trembling a bit. So this one with clip art, it just does it manually, and it's a lot cleaner, I find. Also, I kind of get that in order to have this process be a lot smoother, when I do my liner next time, it has to be specifically closed off, like all the body parts slash clothing. The lines need to be closed off. That way it'll make this process of filling in the color a lot easier. Alright, let's go for the shorts. Still not sure about the shorts, if I'm gonna make it like this color or red. So I will use this color for now, but might end up changing it later. Let's use this. Okay. Yeah, sometimes it does that, which kind of fills it in all of this fill in. So sometimes I use the lasso tool, which it doesn't always work, but it works sometimes. At least I guess I need to adjust the options down there, but I just left it at the option, this setting right here, just based on the previous pages that I've already done. So I don't want to really touch it, but if you guys are just starting out, definitely play around with those options. Kind of not really sure what it's all about, but I'm just like playing around with the sliders and see if it makes a difference, which is usually how I do get to know a program, just by fooling around with it. Okay, the shorts are now done. Next up, let's fill in her skin tone, I think, yes. So I'm gonna go ahead, select the color I've got on my other page, make a new layer, click fill, fill in this one. Okay, I guess whenever this happens, it's because of there's like a open area. Let's see if there's any open areas on this finger here. I don't really see any open areas. Anyways, let me just do the rest. Why? Oh my gosh, why is this? I guess this is not enough for clip art. It needs to be closed up and very sharp. Because right here it's a little bit light. Let's try with this. Nope. Okay, let's go back to this. And oh, okay, here we go. I just played around with color margin. I guess that just it helped. So I'll just fill it in, and then erase if there's any spots poking out and whatnot, and then also fill in some of the tinier gaps manually with the pen tool. Since I've already got it, I'll just go ahead and fill in like the super tiny spots. Okay. But in general, this is a lot faster. And I'll just go ahead and fill in the face, which requires a bit of manual work. But I just try to get most of it filled up and then switch to the pen tool, especially for the face, because it has a lot of small details, especially when it's right next to the hair, which is also a lot of details. So just do it the old-fashioned way, manually. So this is bringing me back to like when I first started to use a digital program to color, and that was back in what, like 2005, 2008, when Clip Art Studio wasn't even a thing back then. It was just like the good old program like Photoshop, Open Canvas, Paint Tool SAI, and we didn't have any sophisticated tools like this. We just, I remember a lot of artists I was learning from, which I didn't know how to do it back then, but everybody was basically doing it like, like coloring outside of the lines, shading, and then manually erasing. So that was the thing back then. But now it's so much more easier. Great. Alright, so the face is done. Let me log that in. And we're just gonna go ahead and do the other colors, the face base color, which is eyeball. Let's go ahead and paint the eyeball first, and then the teeth, because they're the same colors. And then the red, okay, for the red, I'm gonna remove this for now. Let's create a new layer, going on the fill bucket. And then we'll just, oh, okay, I guess I forgot the other one, but yeah, fill that in and then merge down. The reason why I didn't do it on top of the skin layer is because I guess I'm on the fill option, which only detect like high contrast. And if you have like a base color in there, it's very hard to fill in specific spots. I'm gonna grab that eye color now. Grab the eye color, and we are just going to fill in eye color manually. There. It's a little rough, so I'll just clean it up a little bit. But in general, this isn't too bad, and I'm not super careful with filling in this color because I know I'm going to be painting it in anyways later on, and a lot of stuff will change. So this is just purely for as a base. Let's go ahead and do the lip color. I think I kind of I have to re-grab that color. And we'll just do the base for it. There we go. It's always so much fun doing this, and then it's a whole new look basically, which is quite nice. And then, everything changes once I add shadow to it. Alright, that looks fine. Next up, hair. This part can be a little challenging, so I'm gonna go ahead and test out my lasso thing. So we'll just do this real quick. Okay, that actually works out pretty good. So let's go ahead and grab the color for the hair. And then we'll just select that whole part. And then we'll do this part. Hopefully it's going to... Okay, well, missed the spot. That's okay. We'll fill it in. But in general, it did the job quite well. Nice. And we'll just clean it up later. Might need to do this with the fill-in tool, and let's go back to the lasso tool. Alright, so you'll notice it does leave like little bald spots, but that's okay as long as most of it is filled in. Those little bald spots are no issue. I can just do that manually. Doesn't always need to be perfect. And probably because, I haven't, maybe there's a better way of doing this, but okay, I guess I'm not gonna get that spot. Come on. Alright. Time to manually fill in some of these areas. I did end up putting my line art on multiply so that I can see these little bald spots. Sometimes, the fill tool, it doesn't fill in the line art, it just fills in within the like inside the lines basically. And I think you can make it better with playing around with the options. For the fill, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to wait. Sometimes clip art does this thing, I guess it's to backup maybe? Not sure, I just literally started using it yesterday. But this program seems probably the most updated for artists, so I'm looking forward to it. Haven't even played around with the newer Photoshop, but I should probably do that. Since I do notice that it does help you to try out different programs. Like sometimes, you might be like, oh wow, I can do this with this program, but not this with the other one I used to use, and it kind of helps with motivating you a little bit. At least that's how I feel, so I am into trying out new things, basically. Alright, so that's cleaned up. We'll just clean some of this up around her nape. Using the erase tool to clean up the silhouette. Same with here and this area. So those are just tiny areas that can be cleaned up easily. And basically I just go around looking at areas to see how I can make it cleaner and stuff. Alright, so these are all good. Nice. So the hair is done. Time to do her her sleeping mask, which should be easy enough. Let's go ahead, fill in with this one right here, and we can just pop that in. I guess it needs a couple of fills. Alright. Mostly good. Mostly good. Next I'll just go in myself and clean it up a bit. So I'm hoping that doing this will make the end result better, but I don't know that until I try. And if this effort is worth it, because sometimes, I end up painting most of it and the lines are kind of just used, and and then thrown away kind of deal. So sometimes it's really not worth it to do line art, especially when you end up painting anyway. So hopefully I can make use of the lines a bit more. Although, sorry, also, it's pretty relaxing doing this. Alright, and also it looks kind of cool after everything's all filled in and stuff. Let's go ahead, go for the pillow. I'm gonna create a layer here called the pillow layer. Fill in the pillow layer. And then go into basically fill in the rest. I missed a tiny spot right here for the top. Alright, pillow layer complete. Next up, the bed sheet. Okay, let's do the bed sheet. So bed sheet layer. Oops. Alright, mostly filled in. There we go. Blanket. Last but not least, blanket. And it fills in almost perfectly, except for some very small spots. So we can just go ahead and fill those in, and also correcting some of the other layers. Alright, so she's filled in mostly. Pop Genji on. I have to fill him in manually. And I'm going to remove the layer mask. Also remove the base. So it's just lines. So there's an issue here. I need to, before I start, going to the body lines and close that off. Let me zoom in here. So I'll just close it off like that. There we go. It's gonna make filling in those lines a lot easier this way. Alright, so I'll remove the base color so that I can do the individual. So let's start off with his shirt. Okay, it's mostly filled in, just missing a couple of very, very tiny areas. Let's move this up a little bit. And guess I have to do it manually for these areas. And then I'll just zoom in and kind of have a little bit of a closer look, making sure I got most of the areas. cover some of the line art with this color as well. Okay, so now I will create a new layer and I'm gonna do his arm, which I lined it slightly, but most likely I will be using like a texture for his arm. Look, it's kind of a lot of details. Okay, so for the arm, shouldn't be too hard, so I'll just fill them in like this. And if I'm missing any area, go in manually. Fill in, let's use the lasso tool here. And then just erase some of the pixels that's just popping out. Next up is the skin. So let's go ahead and fill in his skin. Oh, there's a little bit of an empty space there. Let's see if it still works. Yep, still works. We'll just try our best to fill most of this in. And of course, always after we do it manually, if we can't get these tiny areas, let me see if I can use the other function, the lasso tool. I guess the setting here needs to be maybe, nope. Okay, well, about if I drag it down here? Oh, okay, now it's working. Was it? Eh. I just want this one spot filled in. I guess it takes a couple tries to get the right setting. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I guess you just have to play around with the settings here until it kind of fills in the area you want sometimes. Or you can just do it manually like this. That works too. I'll just have a once over to make sure that everything is filled in properly. Okay, I think most of his face is filled in. I just also want to cover the area where the lines are at as well. Alright, next up, hair. Grab the hair color and I guess we have to do it little by little this time. And sometimes it takes a couple of tries. There we go. Got it. Got some of it, at least. Next up, fill in manually to fix gonna use a smaller brush for this. Almost done, just a little bit more to go. There we go. Now zoom out. Alright, so all of that is done. Next up is just to see how it turned out. So let me go ahead and remove that. Bring back the mask. Put kitty coat back. Remove the white background and voila. Okay, looks like I need to fix the mask a bit. There we go. Alright, so this is what we have. So now that that's done, typically I would go ahead and make like a rough shadow layer. So I got my shadow layer, which is going to be on top of all the layers basically. And kind of wanted to... So I was playing around yesterday and I was testing out the smooth watercolor from this program. So let's just give it a good test right here. It's similar to Paint Tool Sai, which is good. Put it on multiply. I'm gonna pick a shadow color, so let's go with purple. Test out a few. Okay, I think I like this color. This one right here. Let's go with a little bit of a darker shade. Okay, so now that that's done, basically I'm going to think about this. So in my scene, this side is the window and the window, so the window's on this side, and therefore the shadow is mostly gonna be on the opposite end. So let's go ahead and start adding in a bit of shadow based on that. And my shadowing is, my shading is gonna be kind of rough. In general, I just want to make the base shading have that look that I want, but without being too detailed, because this is just a base. And later on then we'll add in more details and whatnot, but right now it's just gonna be... Oh, I kind of like this tool. It's a little bit different from Paint Tool Sai. It's it feels like a combination of the water brush from Paint Tool Sai and a little bit of smudge brush, which is kind of nice. But in general, we're gonna have most of this side closer to the window be in the highlight, so it will be pretty bright, and then the other side other side is gonna be quite bright. I mean, shadow, sorry. Shaded. Alright, so let's continue. I worked on some of this area while away. I mean, well, not recorded, but let's go ahead and resume. So I just pulled up Genji's face. I did use reference, so I'm using like a 3D model of his face as a reference while I did the line art. And it's definitely like a change for sure from painting. From line art, it's quite different. So yeah, it's very interesting. He's got a very interesting face, I have to say. Uh, let's go ahead and shade his face like this, and then keeping in mind where the lighting is coming from. So this side of his face, I mean that side of his face is gonna be mostly in shadow. I'm also going between a bigger brush and a smaller brush for details. Need to go ahead and try to do my best with that Overwatch nose. Okay, here we go. He has a pretty high nose bridge. Looking at the 3D model of him, I mean. Let's go ahead and basically cover all his neck in shadow. This brush is very interesting because it blends really well. You can put down like a base with a smaller brush. Smaller brushes I find doesn't blend as easily, which is good if you want to just get in there with some small detail. And then I use a slightly bigger size of the same brush to blend it out. It's a definitely a different type of feel from Photoshop brush, which is not very blending friendly, and it is a lot simpler, but it doesn't blend as easily for sure, and you have to manually do that. So yeah, it's a good change. Alright, let's go ahead and do a quick shading of Kittyko's hand. I spent quite a bit of time on this hand. So this hand is probably going to get hit with a lot of that sunlight coming from the window. Therefore, it's going to be mostly bright. So I'm not going to shade it too much. We'll just add a small amount of shading. And yep. Okay, just waiting for clip art to respond. There we go. I think that should be good for now. And onto his shoulders. Same process, so thinking about where the lighting is coming from the front, so it's hitting his shoulder like this. Meanwhile, there's a drop down shadow underneath his arm onto her leg. And we'll just switch to a slightly smaller brush size to really get into those clothing folds. Smaller brush yet again to really touch upon those tiny clothing folds. And I find painting clothes with this type of brush is especially good because it really gets in there and there's some good pen pressure going on. As for his arm, I have a feeling since I plan to use the in-game texture for his arm later, what I'm gonna do is just have a pretty generic shading of his arm. I know this area is probably gonna be pretty hard surface. I'll just try to make that a bit harsher. And then this part, so I think I would like to use a bit of the lasso tool for this. Lasso tool helps with keeping some of that straight edge when it comes to mechanical details. Something that's, or actually I can just use the pen tool, I guess. As a base, alright. You know what, I can even use the pen tool to help me do a slight bit of cell shading before I blend it in a bit more with the water brush, the watercolor brush. But I don't think there'll be too much shading around this area because once again, trying to get that sense of bright color hitting them in this general direction. And then we're gonna get most of the shadow focusing on the opposite side. Something like that. Let's go ahead, switch back to the watercolor brush for blending purposes. And also at the same time switching between bigger and smaller brush. So in Photoshop, you can actually change the brush size by clicking on your small tablet pen, but I still haven't figured out how to do the same on this program. So right now I'm just using the shortcut, which is like the bracket button on the keyboard, the two bracket buttons. It's a little bit different, but once you get used to it, it's not too bad. Maybe it's it's just a little bit slower than Photoshop, but yeah. Okay, now going in with a combination of the erase tool. I'm erasing some of the shadow and then blending it back until I like the result I see. I'm gonna flip the canvas. Haven't done it. I should have been flipping the canvas, but yeah, now doing it, still okay. Oh. Make the brush smaller so I can output more of that shading. I'll just blend these together. Next, let's give some shading to the pillow. Oh man, the shading this brush can do is pretty good. I like how it smudges towards the end. Last but not least, let's go ahead and give some shading to the bed sheets. And I imagine there's gonna be drop down shadow from Kiriko and Genji's arm on top of these bed sheets. I'm using the lasso tool first. So I can fill that in, and then at the same time, there's gonna be a slight bit of highlight over this side. And then I will blend in the rest. So this will be a good base to start off from. Let's see if I can work on his face a little bit more. Let's flip the canvas back. Zoom in. Let's try our best to shade his face a bit more based on the reference. There we go. Adding back some of that highlight, and then blending that highlight in. Gonna have to highlight that brow bone of his, you know. Let's zoom out a bit. Oh, too much cheekbone. I gotta watch it. Okay, I think this should be a good base. Yeah, his face needs a bit more warmth to it, but right now we're just gonna do the shading, the base shading first. And then we can get to the adding of various tones. A very similar concept to how I used to paint. So I'm just adapting to this new line art style of process. But everything can be reused and stuff and applied to other ways of painting, so it's not like everything you've learned or everything I've learned that has been thrown away or anything. There's still so much to explore. The way I can blend with this brush is kinda awesome. Let's go ahead and give some more shading to the hair. Go back in with the erase tool. remove some of the shadow. Remove some of the shadow, and then going back with the same brush and blend that in, which is a pretty interesting process. I should be doing this a bit more often. Okay, yeah, that's not too bad actually. Definitely getting some of that hair shine texture in there by doing that. Let's add some shading to her eyes. But her whole face on this side is gonna be hit with highlight. Sunlight, I mean, so let's keep it fairly bright. Create a new layer, and this is gonna be me testing stuff out. So let's see what they have. Okay, they have all these are somewhat slightly, I guess maybe the names are different. Let's go with, I want to try color dodge. Let's see what that does. And we are going to go for a warm tone. Might be a bit too bright. Let's test that out real quick. Okay, so this is the effect that gives. Let's go ahead test glow dodge. Wow. I see glow dodge is very similar to the classic dodge. This is oh, it's just me remembering like the terms back when I first started, and this is like one of the tools a lot of artists used, and mainly they had a very anime style. Yes, back then that was the thing, especially where I was kind of hanging out at, which is Gaia Online. A very, very old forum-based social website. But yeah, I mean, this is somewhat good. Yeah, this is good. So now that I figured out this color, I'll just go in with it a bit more, especially near the areas where it is highly, highly hit by the color, the sunlight color. So I'll just kind of sprinkle it on more or less. I'm not sure if I can give Genji a bit of this. We'll try. So yeah, he might be Asian, but he's got some very heavy Western features. His nose bridge is so high. Very, very interesting having a closer look at the 3D model. Let's go ahead and add some. This feels like putting on makeup, honestly. It's like going through the steps, putting the foundation, the highlights, and whatnot. It's loading. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. Focusing heavily on the areas where we get the most amount of light exposure. Ooh, that's bright. Yes, I think that's gonna be good. Let's go just this part of the blanket, and then I'm gonna use the erase tool and make a sharp line of which we have like that separation between the highlight and the shadow. Something like this, yes. And then on the pillow as well, we're gonna get some light exposure on that pillow. Let's get some brightness on the sheet. There we go. Alright. So now that that's done, I can somewhat play around further with this highlight by going through hue saturation or other filters like brightness or contrast, that type of thing, to really see what my options are for this type of highlight. So I guess we can go with that. And let me create a new layer. Let's do multiply. I kind of want to add another layer of shadowing specific places to really isolate certain areas from the highlight, so that some of the highlights can really stand out. It's hard to explain, but in order to create a certain area or make certain areas stand out to the audience, we have to make sure the other areas are not as intense. So therefore, I would like to see if I can kind of reduce the intensity in some of the areas. But yeah, it's looking not too bad actually. Could use some airbrush action after this. Let's see. Oh, whoa, what was that? What is this? What is this? Oh, that's very interesting. I have no idea what this is, but I'm gonna try to figure it out later. Okay, let's move on. Okay, create a new layer. Let's see, do we have an airbrush? Airbrush is right here. Alright. I have not touched their airbrush. What is this? Ooh, okay. This is kind of cool. This is the airbrush. Okay, that's the airbrush I want. Let's make it a little bigger. Put multiply. Specifically, I'm aiming for areas with a little bit more warmth to it. And I'll just be adding some blush. Oh, wait. And let's give Genji's lip a little bit more, what's it called? There we go. So he doesn't look like his, okay. Maybe remove the blush. But he definitely needs some warmth. Maybe like that. And then we'll add some warmth to her fingers. There we go. Zoom out. Ooh, yes. I'm kind of liking this program a lot now. I think I can definitely make this work. Definitely. And even, maybe I could even quickly edit the background. See, the background is a 3D model that I'm using as a base, and there's a bunch of layers on top. Yeah, I'm taking that out because we can't have that. There's some shadow. Maybe I can even use this to blend out some of the edited areas that I want. What's this? Merge down. Oh, yeah, merge down. What's this? That's the counter. Okay, lock it down. I'm gonna use this brush to help me smooth out some of these areas. I'll just blend this out. Let's put back the filter, zoom out, pop these two back, pop these settings back. Yep, definitely making this work. And then I'm gonna go ahead, create a shadow layer inside the background. And then we can try to sort of do like a little mock-up shadow from Kiriko's hand, which is gonna help sell that the feeling of lighting hitting her basically in that direction. Do a little shadow mock-up. Nice. There we go. All right, it's getting there. So what I'll do after is, I don't know if this program, no, it's not. It's a little different than Photoshop, so I'll have to import this back into Photoshop and basically do that thing where I apply all these effects to the individual layers. So this I will duplicate and then apply to every single one of these layers and then merge down. And then we'll have our base to work from. So yeah, I will be right back, guys. Welcome back, guys. Alright, so let's pick up where we left off. So for this portion of the voiceover, I'm going to be showing you guys the next step. Basically, I was planning to, after the base color and everything, and after having merged all the shadow highlight layers into each of these individual layers, now it's time to start kind of refining. Also, I went ahead and looked for better references for their face shading. As you can see, this is kind of the closest angle I could find of Genji's face, and I just grabbed a screenshot of the cinematic of her face from a similar angle. So we're just gonna be using those two as a guide. So yeah, that's about it. Also, for Genji's arm, I'm gonna be using the 3D model. So I went ahead and found 3D model for him. I'm just going to grab the arm and kind of just use that as a base. Alright, so here I have some screen grabs. That was the screen grab for her face. This is screen grab for Genji's arm. It's a little tricky, so I have two angles in case I need to kind of play around with it. So for this face, I'm using Photoshop to do this because Photoshop is still the most flexible in my opinion when it comes to just applying a photo texture. I played around with the other two programs, the PaintOSI and ClipArt. I just started ClipArt, so I'm not too familiar, but I have taken a quick look at the transformation options, and ClipArt, so far to my knowledge, does not have warp. So therefore Photoshop it is for this face. So I will try my best to warp the screen grab to Genji's arm. I will probably need to do some editing separately. However, I just want to get somewhat of a close approximation of how that would look. So I'm gonna use this angle now because I'm trying to get a closer look at his elbow there. And in the first image, it's not very clear. And as you can see, my sketch involves some elbow action. So this one should do a much better job. So I will just warp it. Increase the opacity. Okay, so I guess we will roll with this. I'm going to just adjust it next. Make some adjustments to try to match to my original sketch or original line art guide, somewhat like this. So I did use reference when I did the line art, but I'm just a little lazy when it comes to technical stuff like robotic arms and stuff. I like to do more organic, shade more organic stuff like characters and stuff. So when it comes to stuff I don't want to work on too much, I just try to find the easiest way to do a decent enough job that doesn't involve too much work. So yeah, this is my plan for that because this is often used. I use this technique quite a bit. Picked it up in while working as a junior concept artist. You know, we would often use this type of method just to make things a lot easier. Because back then, you know, actually working as a concept artist, I was told that the faster you are and the more ideas you can come up with, the better it is. So that was one way of doing it. So as you can see, quickly I was able to make a pretty good robot arm based off of that screen grab that I did. Of course, this is not going to be the final result because I still need to paint over it and such, but it's a pretty good base to work from. And yeah, so I'll just leave this here for now. Actually, before that, I'm curious. I want to test something else. So I'll just grab the underneath and then let's do overlay maybe. Might be a bit too bright. Actually, overlay is kind of cool though. Let's merge down. And then going into the lines, I'm going to minimize these lines. So you'll notice that there's little areas that feels like it's not filled in. That's because of the way I filled in this piece through clip art. I still need to figure out a better way of doing it, but that's the reason there's like these little gaps. But that's okay, I just fix that up, go back to body, lock it in, and I'll just use a white color for the lines. Since the layers are multiply, it should make most of the lines disappear. And as you can see, there's more little areas that's kind of not filled in completely during the flat face. The phase where I kind of fill in the lines. So we must go back later and fix it. Okay, here we go. I found the arm layer. Okay. Yep, there's a lot of space that has not been filled in. I'll just go back in and try my best to fill them. And that should do it. Alright, so now we have our image, our photo grab texture slash base. Okay. Next up, I'm gonna create a new layer and we'll try to, oh, hold on, before that. What is this white area? It's probably not filled in again. Okay, I guess I'll just have to make the lines a little darker in those areas. Alright, back to it. Let's go grab this color right here. And I will just add in some shadow implied from Kiriko's hand on his arm and areas like that. And then I will erase the rest. Let's minimize the intensity, merge down everything. Alright, let's go to the hair because I think his hair could use a little bit more highlight. So I'll just copy that amount. Let's go ahead and add a slight bit of highlight. Reduce saturation. Up the brightness. Now up to his, let's go ahead to his face. So basically it's all about that observation. So I will just try my best to emulate the reference here. But yeah, Genji has a pretty high nose bridge. Very interesting. I'll try not to give him too much of an eye bag because I noticed that kind of looked like eye bags the way I painted his eyes. Exaggerate his eyebrows a bit more. That's his main feature. He's got like these bushy eyebrows. Grab a bit of the warm tone. I'm going to use some airbrush now. And then using the lasso tool, I need to get that nose highlight properly. His nose got a pretty sharp shadow line. And I just need to kind of adjust it as I go so that it's not too much. Not too much, too little. But yeah, I want to make him have like a relaxed look. Let's go into the ear. I'll just grab a slightly darker shade of that color that's already part of his ear. emphasize his jawline a bit. Okay, it's looking a little better. Let's add some more shadow underneath that chin of his. He also has a pretty long chin. It's looking a lot better, so if I do like a little before and after, definitely looking a lot better. Let me just merge everything down now. So Genji's face is good to go. Let's go ahead and work on Kiriko's face. Needs a bit more shading, but also I need to modify a few things. So first thing is I end up making her shorts red. I was debating on what color to begin with, but red suits her quite well, so red it is. I am going to copy that and make it a little brighter because that red was a little too dark. So let me just merge everything down after I'm happy with it. Let's zoom in on her face now. And as for her hair, I want to add some warmth to her hair since there is some intense sunlight going on that side. So I want to emphasize that fact. I picked a like a grassy green because it does have a bit of warmth to it, and just briefly brush it over her hair like this. I'll just add some other small bits like that, merge down. So I'm gonna render her hair out in Paint Tool Side because I find that that program is pretty good at rendering hair. I've tried to do that with clip art, didn't really get into it, so we're just gonna skip around the three programs for this voiceover. Alright, so now onto Kiriko's face. Let's make a new layer. And we're just gonna grab the color from the reference using the airbrush. Oh, airbrush. Come on, there we go. Took me a while. And based on the reference, I'm going to see if I can improve the look of her face. Let's go ahead and start with her nose. There is a pretty clear distinction of her nose, so I'm just kind of trying my best to get that down as without making it look awkward, because sometimes I can do that. Grab this color from the reference. And then I will grab some more of the color from the reference, and I can even adjust the shading accordingly, add some more warmth into the darker part of the shadow. grab a bit of that highlight. Alright, I might need to bring back a bit of that cool tone shadow though. But in general, it's gonna be a very, very warm tone shadow, especially on her face since it's being hit by sunlight. Alright, next I'm going to just flip the canvas, see what's going on here. Basing it off of the reference. So now for the lines for her face, I'm most likely going to paint over them because the lines, it's a little hard to kind of play around with it since I would like to change some of the shape for the lines. Let's grab a bit of red. I want to add some blush accents around her skin tone. Let me select a slightly darker shade just so I can add some of that shadow. There we go. Cleaning up her ear as well. So now I'm going into her elbow. I think I would actually like to do this in clip art to blend in her skin. But before that, let me go ahead grab the lines. I'm going to, okay, so I'm gonna grab the lines for her eyes especially. And good thing I had it on a separate layer because I'm going to be basically painting over it because we want that Overwatch look. So if I just like put it a little bit closer, there we go. Oh, I guess I can zoom in. Create a new layer. So now I can paint over the lines. Grab color from the cinematic so we can use it. Grab some color from there. Let's continue to use the reference as a guide. So I sadly did not manage to find a lot of, I was going through frame by frame, but couldn't find expression like the one I have here. So we're just going to do our best to interpret the reference with what we want to do. So just on closer inspection, her eyes are closed. I mean, the silhouette around her eyes are closed like that, and it's angled downward. So oftentimes I will try to do my best to keep that style, keep the initial style, just by close inspection and kind of really follow in general how the eye shape is and stuff, and do a little bit of interpretation. And let's go ahead, grab a little bit of blue and put it on top here. A lot of Overwatch cinematic has this highlight in the eyes, and it just makes the character look a bit more alive, and then I just do a little dot. But there's many placement for this little dot, so I have to try a bunch. And even after I finish with kind of painting over, sometimes it's not going to be perfect, so I have to edit and try a bunch. Okay, that might be a bit too wide-eyed. Maybe if I make the eyeball bigger. So I'll try to play around with the eye shape after I'm done, so that it'll end up looking like the style. Whoops. Okay. Let's go ahead, bring down that eye shape. Or maybe I can do it like this. But in general, I'm aiming for like a surprised look. What if I remove the teeth? Well, this would make her have a pursed lip expression, kind of like the reference. It's not bad. Grab. Okay, let's try with some teeth. Okay, I think I like it with teeth. Let me flip her once again. So we're just gonna flip back and forth until I'm happy with it, but it's already looking better in general. It's a little bit of a switch, but it's definitely looking a little more Overwatch, so that's good. Alright. Merge down. Oh, okay. I probably shouldn't do that. Let's zoom out and see what we can do. Let me grab some of that color. And I'll just add it to her skin tone in general. So I'm just going to sort of add some more shading to her skin. Then I'm going to readjust, rebalance, and remove some of that shading. Okay. Next up, the top. Yes, the top. So for this part, I need to adjust the color to be more warm tone because it is being hit by the sun, and I suppose I didn't notice that before. So now we'll just switch it to a more of a warm tone, and already I think it looks better. Same with the pillow, so I must change at least the side that's facing the sun to have more of a warm tone. So you can use whatever color editing filter you can. Just make sure it's a little bit warmer toned, and that should be a pretty good balance. A nice balance because it has both cool tone and warm tone, and that is gonna make the piece look so much more balanced. In addition to that, I kind of want to make it a little bit darker, so I'm going for that comic look all the way, so it's looking a lot more colorful and stuff like that. Do it to the bed sheet as well. So some of this area needs to be blended out, but before that, I'm going to create a new layer. Multiply, and I want to soften the intensity of the highlight by just darkening it up with a darker shade like this. Merge down, and I want to see if I can do it to the pillow too, so a slightly darker shade. Merge down. Alright, that should do it. And as for Genji's shirt, I kind of wanted to have a bit more contrast than that, so I'll just go use the lasso tool and select the areas where I think could use more shadow like this. And I'll just lower the opacity. Same with this part. We'll just do that. Save. Copy, paste. Change the highlight to have more of a warmer tone like this to match the sun setting. And then I'm going to the background and do some work there. So let's say this area of the bookshelf needs to be a little darker because the sunlight is mostly coming from the other side, this side, let's say. So I'll just try to play that up a bit, and hopefully we can create something more interesting to look at. More, I guess I need to have more of a warmer shade there. Yeah, something like that. Overall, just trying to make the whole piece more dynamic, either by increasing the contrast of the characters or making the background elements more colorful and stuff. And going for this type of style, a lot of bright colors need to be used. Let's increase, actually no, not increase, let's use overlay. Merge down. Okay, I think that should do it. Let's add a little bit of shadow here. Yeah, that bookshelf's looking mighty a lot more intense. Let's go with multiply. Use a bit of the blue. I want to emphasize this wall a bit. By changing the hue shading. There we go. Let's go back to Kitty Coastal Lake. It's looking like it needs some highlight. But simple enough, I will just use whatever was there before. Delete. We'll just reduce the intensity. Whatever I can do to cut the highlight. Sometimes having a full highlight just straight throughout her leg feels a bit too not dynamic enough for my liking. I just like to have a lot of like contrast with the shadow and all that. Alright, that should do it. So now that I have all this done, I'm just going to port it into clipart or Paint Tool SAI and kind of blend it further. First up is Clipart Studio. So I ported this into clipart. And I find that I really like the smooth watercolor brush. I've been using it, testing it out, and I find it's pretty good for kind of like blending, but with a little bit of smudge. So I'm gonna be using it for the bed sheets. Alright, so I got my brush. Oh wait, I'm not on the right layer. Have a lot of layers, okay. This is the layer. Let's go ahead and do that. Let me see if I can find the bed line art. Bed, ponytail bed. Okay, found the line art. I want to merge the line art in with the bed and the pillow. So I'll copy the bed. Copy the bed. Merge down. Merge down. Okay, there we go. Now that that's done, I can go ahead and blend everything together, including the line art. And this is pretty good brush for blending, in my opinion. If I want to do the same kind of blending on Photoshop, it would take a lot more effort. So this program is good, similar to Paint Tool SAI. I think with a bit more practice on it, I could really come to really like using this program a bit more than what I'm already using it for. And it's kind of interesting how just trying out a new program could help with things, give new perspective and whatnot. But Photoshop is still pretty good for editing in general and for just correcting parts of an image and stuff like that. Alright, so blending with this brush is pretty, it's very different from just using the standard round brush in Photoshop. So it has a smudge component, which means that I have to watch the direction in which I paint or lay down the color. It's something that you pick up once you start using this brush. Definitely interesting workflow. So there is that smudgy component, as you can see. With a hard press of my pen, I place the color, and then with a lighter pressure, I smudge it. Yep. And also, this brush does a pretty good job very fast. At least how I'm using it, I find that it's the most efficient way of blending stuff like this. Ooh, look at that smoothness. If I were to do this in Photoshop, it would take so long. There we go. Looking nice. Let's move on to the pillow now. So I can also give the pillow some blending, make it nice and smooth and with a interesting feel to it. The way this brush blends makes it have this thick texture. It's not quite airbrush. It's like an in-between between airbrush and hard surface. I don't know how to explain it, but it just feels really nice. I just really like the result of this brush. Very nice, very nice. Although I have to say I would not just use this brush outright. I would have to have a color base and everything before I start blending. Same with Paint Tool Side. Those programs to me are not for like work in progress. They're for blending. They're not for laying down the base color and stuff like that. They're purely for blending. If I wanna start a piece, I would use Photoshop because Photoshop is still the best when it comes to that. Everything else, actually, no. Blending and stuff like that, these two programs are really good at. Alright, I think my pillow's looking pretty blended and looking kind of nice. Okay, now that that's done, let's go ahead and go into Kiriko's top so that we can blend it a little bit. Oh my god, this blends so good. It blends folds like a dream. It just smudges it nicely. I'm just raving about this brush. It's like I've discovered the cheat tool to blending. That's how it feels like to me. Because I've been using Photoshop for so long. But I'm glad I decided to give this a try. Purely because someone mentioned to me that they use it for their line art. So why not give it a try for that? Also, there's this other program. It's like a tablet art program. I remember buying it. I just forgot the name, but I know a lot of artists also use that one. So maybe I can give that a try too. You never know. go ahead and zoom out real quick, see what's going on here. And I'm just gonna flip my canvas while I'm at it. Oh man, that blending is too good. Alright, let's move on to the shorts. Let's continue this blending fest. Move on to her shorts and make them look nice. Although I do have to say, the way this brush blends does have give one sort of texture, which is the blended texture. This type of velvety texture look. At least that's how I tend to make it look like while using this brush. So I guess I'm still trying to test out to see like what limitation there are for it. Like maybe this brush can't make the fabric look like a certain type. Let's zoom out now. Yeah, it's making the fabric look velvety. Let me make the brush size bigger so I can smooth it out a little bit better. So making the brush a little bigger does help with blending in general to make it look not as velvety. Well, I guess it still ends up looking velvety. Zoom out. I could test out different directions. Okay, I guess I'll go with that. Let me make the brush smaller. Add the design for it. I think I should have made the lines a little bit thicker on her shorts. Let me see if I can do that. So, I have been testing out line weights, as in how thick the lines are for the line art. And usually I would do pretty thin lines, I would say. But yeah, lately I've been more into thicker lines because thicker lines does add a bit more personality, I find. I'm gonna see if I can make this line a bit thicker. Zoom out. Actually, I don't even need to zoom out. Definitely does give something extra to this piece. Definitely want to get better at doing line art, as in determining which lines should be made thicker and stuff. In general, I think from observing like more experienced artists that use lines, they tend to make the lines thicker to emphasize distance is one thing, and also another is just around the face in particular, like underneath the chin and contouring the head shape. So I'm gonna try to do that in the future as well and see if it works out for me as well. I want to also make the lines for the cover thicker. Maybe, let's see, where else can I make the line thick, maybe around her shoulder. Actually, in general, I think just around. Oh, wait. Okay, in general, around the character. On the outer edge, that is. Okay, I think that should be fine. I'm just gonna leave the lines alone for now. Go back to the skin. Actually, before that, let me go ahead and blend the blanket, and the blanket needs some work. Let's see what we could do with the blanket. Oops. So I'll just see what I can do with this brush. Bigger brushes I find, tend to blend a lot better. If I go for a smaller brush, it helps with just creating new folds inside the blanket. And now, basically, kind of just wing it a little bit, you could say. Let's wing it. Oh, I'm just gonna let clip art do its thing. Clip Studio. Wait, is this program's Clip Studio? I've been calling it Clip Art all this time. Ah! Let's go ahead and blend this in. Ooh, maybe add a little bit of a darker shade around here. Let's add some shadow to go with the shadow on Kiriko's leg. Actually, you know what? If I were to, let's do this. Let's say this is like Genji's arm casting the shadow on the blanket. That makes sense. Yes, that makes sense. I was like, do I have to follow the leg shadow, which is like literally going down like this? And it was gonna cut off a lot of the highlights up here. And then I thought I could use Genji's arm as the guide for the shadow, which ended up working out. Yep. All right, getting there, getting there. I think the bed sheets need to be readjusted. I just fix the direction in which the folds are coming at, so it makes more sense now. Yep, making more sense. Okay, now that that's done, still would like to darken the blanket. Oh, on that side, yep, like that. Okay. Uh, okay, let's go to Genji now. Let's go to his arm. So now that I have um, the the base and all that, and also the photo texture to help, it's gonna make this face a little easier. So still using the same brush, but I'm using a much smaller size, which means I get to be a bit more precise. I'm gonna go ahead and start blending it in. I'm just switching between bigger and smaller size brush. And also just in general making um, making the photo texture a little bit smoother and less pixelated by just painting over it. And with that, it's almost blended. Also trying to make sure to keep some of the hard edges from the photo texture. Also need to make sure to include some of the surrounding colors such as red. That I think might reflect a little bit on his arm just to make it blend well or make it go well with the rest of the picture. Alright, so that part of his arm is almost complete. Let me go ahead and add back in the shadow for Kiriko's hand touching his arm. And with this brush, it just makes it so much easier to do this. I guess the only thing is I haven't figured out how to do hard surfaces effectively here yet. I need to fix the shortcuts for this program so I can shortcut the lasso tool like the shortcut I use on Photoshop so I can do this a lot faster. But so far so good. I'm happy with how it's turning out. And because this is a comic, I don't have to super render it out. Just the bare minimum is, well, not the bare minimum, but just a little bit of effort is enough. I don't have to be super like picky about how it looks and stuff like that, which is usually my problem when it comes to illustrations. I always have to make sure everything's like perfect and stuff. I guess after you've been doing it for a few years, it gets a little bit boring, so this really is quite refreshing. Zoom out a little bit, let's have a look. Definitely getting there. Let's use the pen tool, which is a very harsh tool, but it's good for line art. I'm going to use this just to help me line certain things. And also it's good for creating very, very hard surfaces or sharp edges and whatnot. Alright, so Genji's arm is kind of done-ish. Merge down, create a new layer, constraint down, which is this little thing right here. It's called clip masking. I've been calling it constraint down, but the technical term is clip mask. Yes, clip mask. Let's go ahead and add some blue onto his arm. I'm using a bit of erase to erase certain areas. Using the same brush, I'll paint over the areas that's being erased. Hopefully this will help create some sort of hard surface. It does, actually. The workflow is different from what I would do in Photoshop, but the concept is similar, so it's all good. Let's lower that, create a new layer, and then let's do glow dodge, and we're going to be adding some very well-deserved warm highlights. Go back to the shadow. Okay, I think that should do it. That's passable. Let me just merge everything down now. Oh wait, hold on. Whoops. There we go. Merge all the arm down. Alright, next up, Genji's shirt. I think I would like to make his shirt a little darker, so I'll just go ahead, go into edit, and brightness contrast. Yes, this much darker. Flip. Get ready to blend. Let's see if we can get some nice little folds in with this brush. Just my Yeah, just by making it a little bit smaller than the rest. I mean, yeah, just by making it smaller. Dragging it back and forth to create that texture. Get some hard surface in, or hard shadow cut in. Okay, this should do it. Safe. Let's tackle his hair. Tackle that. Actually, let's test it out, but I might end up porting this into Paint-Tool-Sai for the hair. I just wanna blend it a bit. Yeah, this brush makes the hair look a little bit too it's not the right feel that I'm going for. Let's add a bit of warm toning there. Well, it's not bad, but I still prefer Paint-Tool-Sai when it comes to hair. So I'll just do Kiriko's hair in Paint-Tool-Sai. But this is what we have so far. And we're gonna continue from here after this short break. I'll see you guys soon. Hey guys! So I ported the file into Paint-Tool-Sai, and we're just going to work on the hair for that part. Alright, let's get started. So typically for the hair, I find that I like the pencil brush the most. It's a mix between the color brush and also the kind of like the solid round brush in Photoshop, but with a bit of pen pressure, which you can also do the same on Photoshop, except I don't find it as able to blend as Paint-Tool-Sai, so that's why this program is my favorite when it comes to rendering hair, at least for this type of style. And also I like to flip the canvas every now and then just to get an idea of what's happening. I also like to rotate a little bit so I can get a better angle, so to speak. So we'll just refine that. Let's rotate once again. I end up setting the rotate function, which is right here on the R keyboard, so I can do it easily. So we'll just kind of go through her hair and render it out, kind of, but not super rendered like how I used to do it. I'm also going to go back into the line art and basically colorize some of the lines, make it, especially around the highlight color, make it like a lighter green tone. This I find helps blend the lines in, so sometimes it's better this way, sometimes it's better with bold lines. Um, I think I have to kind of experiment on that front to know which one's better. So yeah, so far I've been liking it like this. All right, let's go switch to watercolor, which is the blendy brush, very blendy. And I'll just roughly blend it out by making short strokes. But I find that, overdoing it doesn't look too good, so I'm trying my best not to overdo it. So I'll go in with this brush, blend it a little bit, and then switch back to the pencil brush after a while, and then repeat the process a few times until I like the result, basically. So, I mean, zoomed in, you can kind of see it's kind of rough, but I'm looking at a small preview of it, and it looks decent enough from afar. You can't really tell the brush strokes, but once you zoom in, you'll see them. See, like kind of like this. It gives a certain aesthetic that I kind of been liking lately. So yeah, hoping to discover new ways developing this style. I just want to know where is this coming from? This little white dot. Sometimes, okay, it's in the Genji layer. Okay, it's in his arms. I shall erase real quick. Alright, let's go back to the hair now. Go back to the pencil brush. With a lighter hand, I will emphasize the area that's already kind of in that highlight zone, so I'll just kind of make it a little bit more with this brush, which creates a nice paintery texture. So it's getting there. I'll zoom out real quick, have a look, zoom back in, switch brushes to the watercolor, blend it in a bit. Let's make the watercolor brush a little bit smaller so that I can have it be a little less blendy. Ooh, yeah. A little less blendy. When the brush is big, it tends to blend overall and smooth things out. So I gotta switch it to a smaller one. Let's add some highlight around here. Switch to the pencil brush so that we can have a bit more control. Also, we're able to add more of that hair texture. I'm gonna grab some of the shadow and add that in. We'll just continue to add the highlights. Add some to the edge, catching that nice intense highlight towards the shaded area of the hair, which adds a nice little contrast to that area. Always, always good to have a bit of contrast in those really dark areas of your character. So now I think the hair looks a lot more, it's got more details to it. At the same time, it's still kind of messy, but this is the style that I'm gonna try to develop for this whole comic thing. So I've been testing out a few things, and it's pretty what's it called? It stimulates my brain. So I'm enjoying the process. All right. Zoom out again. Switch back to the watercolor. Give some of the areas a bit of that smooth blending. Zoom out here. Okay, I think that should do it for that. Let's go. Actually, before I go anywhere, let's do this. So we'll do what we did before, which is basically I'm going to target a specific area of the hair that's already kind of in highlight, but I want to intensify it. So I'm just kind of selecting those areas one by one because I still haven't figured out how to add to the selection, so we must make do with this. And we will select those areas, make it a little bit more intense with brightness and contrast. Ooh, that is crazy. That might be a little bit too much. Let's lower the opacity. Merge down. We just want a little bit of intensity. Then I will edit the whole hair. Adjust the hair as a whole. The whole hair layer. I'll just play around with the contrast. Just want to make that hair just a little bit darker. So I got some good references of cuticle from the cinematic, but of course it's enhanced. So it looks like it's been enhanced by one of those AI apps. So I find these on Pinterest. Interesting enough, Pinterest has good references. So I'll just grab like one of the colors from that reference, and I quite like the contrast of this reference too. And we'll see if we can make it work somehow with what we got here. Let's grab some of that. Mostly this color will be inside the shaded area of her hair. And in general, it's much cooler tone, which goes with the theme. Let's make a new layer. Actually, I want to add some hair strands afterwards using Clip Studio Art. Clip Studio Art. I've also been trying it out here and there, so I've been testing out the brushes. Alright, so we're gonna be good for that. Let's head on to the mask. And I want to intensify the mask color, making the red pop out. Intensify that. Let's go to the skin. So I do have, oh, what happened to Genji's face? There we go. So I'll just merge everything down, create a new layer, clip it to the original skin layer, and I'm gonna use airbrush for this face. Actually, before that, let's go with color, and I want to adjust the color. So let's add a more of a reddish tone to her skin tone. Like that, kind of like that, but now her skin tone doesn't feel as impactful towards the sun. So in order, let's see what I can do here. Let's lower the opacity, I guess. Create a new layer. So I'm just going to keep all my edits on different layers so I don't have to mess it up and stuff. I'm going to basically just color grab from the reference. Nothing like emulating that style by literally doing a observational thing. Except I wish I could find a view of her face that's kind of like this. Let's grab some of that shadow. Let's give her some slight eyeshadow, some eyelashes. You know, nobody wakes up like looking like this good. But, you know, I want to make a Kiriko look pretty. Zoom out. Add some more lashes on the other side. Let's grab some of that color. Oh, she shouldn't be smiling. She should be shocked. Also, it takes me a bit of time to adjust the expression. Right now, I kind of know that the expression needs work. Maybe if I arched her eyebrows a bit more. But eyebrows are pretty important when it comes to expressions. It's even more so important in comics. In illustrations before, you know, like fully rendered pieces, the expression, well, I didn't really make the expression that much of the focal point, so usually I would end up just making them have a pretty static expression. So comic is quite different, and it's been fun. Let's zoom out a bit, see what's going on here. Do a little before and after. Definitely looking pretty with those lashes. I wish there was an option to create another window of this. Oh, maybe like this. Let me drag this. Can I drag this outside? Oh no. I can't drag this. I don't think I can separate this. Oh well. Let's save for now. Create a new layer. This layer, I'm going to turn down the opacity and put a layer of that around her skin tone. Constrain it down or clip it down. I keep saying constraint, but yes, clip that. Clip that and clip that. This way, I can sort of layer it on a little bit, layer on the color from the reference bit by bit. And, you know, this way I can gauge if it's going well or not using the airbrush for this phase. I've been testing out the brushes in both Clip Studio and also Paint Tool Sai, and the blending brush are great and everything, but they don't do a very well. It's hard to do a solid rendering with those brushes, but they are quite good at blending. If you're not looking for anything too solid like Photoshop can do, it's kind of hard to describe. But the airbrush is pretty good at stabilizing and creating a solid shading or rendering. The downside is it doesn't blend that well, so it's it makes things less colorful, I would say, yeah. But it's good for layering at least. So let me layer on some color with the airbrush. the trusty airbrush. It's looking a lot better. Merge down, we'll do a little before and after. So this is how it's looking like now. And let's go to our top layer, create a new layer, clip that layer down to the top layer, which is the tank top, and we're just gonna work on the tank top. So for this specific area, I'm going to add in some of that reference color. So I had more of a blue tone, but let's see if we can make it look a little bit more like the trailer, render it out more like the trailer, which just involves just adding some colors. Alright, I think it's getting there, except let's try this. Let's do color. So let's do color, which changes the color. So I'll just change most of this area to this shade right here, but still maintaining some of the cooler tones. Maintaining a little bit of that. Zoom out. Merge down. And then copy paste that area, intensify that area, and switch to the erase tool. I'm going to erase a little bit so I can have most of the highlight towards the high point of her chest, really emphasizing that cleavage, you know what I'm saying? Okay, now that that's done, we'll go back to blending it out with the watercolor. Let's go ahead and borrow some of the colors from the reference. I want to add in some more shadows for the folds. Under here and here. Let's go ahead, clip that to the top, merge down. Let's do a little auto contrast, not auto contrast, but a little bit of editing. Sorry, doing editing for the color. I like to do this after everything is done just to see if we can make it a little better by playing around with it. It's always an option. So I always try to test it out. Even when I think it looks good, I still test it out. Okay, that's done. Let's go to her shorts. Create a new layer, clip that layer to the shorts layer. Switch to the airbrush. Let's airbrush her shorts to remove that, or at least try to have more of a solid shading for it. Let's add a little bit of orange and see how that would look. I think that's going to hopefully balance the shorts out. The shorts is quite red, and I just needed it to have a slight tonal change to balance the look out. Okay, it's looking a little more thick, like the fabric's looking thicker. Merge down, merge down. The blanket probably also need this, so go to the blanket. We'll use the airbrush once again to create a more solid look. Not as blended because we're just going to stack shadow on top of shadow, or highlight, or vice versa. Let's go ahead, grab a slight orangish, or actually no, yeah, slight orangish color. using the airbrush. Stack that on. Looking thick. Do a little before and after. It also tones down that insane contrast it had, which sometimes is a good thing or a bad thing, depends. Just have to test it out. So I just select that area, make it a little darker to enhance the shadow and stuff. Go back to the erase tool, lower that, merge down, now I'm going to Genji shirt and create a new layer, clip it, same process. So we're gonna go with the airbrush. We will airbrush his shirt, tone down some of that intense shading. Also, I want to test out using a very, very yellow green for this. Zoom out. It has a more softer look, I think. Yep. Merge down. Let's do a last minute adjustment. Looks good dark like that. And then let's go ahead, go onto Genji's face, create a new layer, and we're just gonna do the same we did with Kiriko's face. I'm going to lower the opacity for that, and I'm just going to use the color that's in the reference to see if I can sculpt out his face a bit more or add some more color to his face, you could say. Kind of like makeup. Just adding, enhancing their beauty and whatnot. Let's make his nose a bit warmer. Zoom out. Do a little before and after to see if it's had a good effect or a bad effect. I think it's looking good, so I'm going to now hit the adjustment key and play around with the color essentially to see if I can make it a little bit better. Let's grab some of Akiriko's lip color. We're gonna use that on Genji as well. Hopefully it turns out okay, but it should. Yeah, it's not too bad. Because her lips are quite nude, so I think it should work for him too. Guess we'll give Genji a little bit of eyeshadow too. I mean, he's got pretty thick eyebrows and thick lash line, so should be okay. Also, it's good to emphasize their eyes. So yeah, taking a closer look at Genji, he's got some eyeshadow for sure. Grab a bit of this color. Then let's go ahead and use a very warm tone, put it near his ear, adding some warmth to his ear. Add some shadow. Zoom out once again. We're just going to periodically do this so that I can judge I can judge the process to see if it's doing good or doing bad, or making it better or not, that type of stuff. Now, I'm going to merge down. Next up is Kiriko's hand, that's just over there. So I have to find where that hand went. Where did I put her hand? Okay, it's here. Alright, so same process, new layer, lower the opacity with the airbrush. I'll just stack on some of that warm shadow color onto her hands. And then using the erase tool, make the erase tool a little bit smaller so I can get a good size. I'll just erase certain areas only, creating a very shiny look to her skin. As you can see, let's flip. It's looking good though, I kind of like it. I'm gonna move on to the watercolor and just blend it out ever so slightly. Merge down, create a new layer once again, clip it. Let's go ahead, grab this. See if I can give a bit of shine to her skin overall. We'll just do it to see if it works. Sometimes it looks good, sometimes it might look a little bit off. So we'll just do it and then we're gonna judge it by zooming out right after. Let's grab some of that shadow. Zoom out. Go with the erase tool and I'll just gently erase it ever so slightly. And also I can play around with the opacity so it doesn't look too bad. I think I'm gonna keep it like that. And overall I think this piece is turning out not too bad. I think I could probably say this is complete because it's not really like a full illustration, it's just a comic page, but you can always spend the extra time on it. So I'll just save that for now. Welcome back guys. So I ported this into Clip Studio. What is it? Clip Studio Paint, yes, there we go. Clip Studio Paint. It's the new program I've been trying out. So this program is pretty good. I like the pen pressure quite a bit. We're gonna go back into her hair and do some blending. So using the smooth watercolor, yes, smooth watercolor. I'll just go in a bit, do a bit of blending. So this brush is pretty similar to the watercolor brush in the other program, except it also smudges on top of the blending. So it gives a slight different look, but also good for blending. Not so much for solid rendering, I find, but it's good for blending. So as you can see, this is kind of what it looks like zoom out, which is what I'm going to focus. I'm not going to focus too much on how it looks zoomed in, because when you zoom in, you can kind of see the brush strokes, but zoomed out looks a lot better. So we will just do a bit of blending on the hair, and then I'm going to add some separate hair strands, hoping that it's gonna have a better, add some more texture to the hair, so to speak. But we will have to see after I finish blending this in. So I think with this program, I'll probably be able to like draw a lot faster, or actually render a lot faster, because I think I would probably have to spend 2 or 3 times more time just to blend stuff in with Photoshop. Although Photoshop, you can do some solid rendering, um, like solid realistic rendering. But you know, it's fun to try new things. Alright, let's zoom out and have a look. So this is the type of look it gives. Pretty cartoony, actually not cartoony, more comic style, yeah. More comic style rendering. We'll just do a couple more and then I will switch to something else. I'm going to go into the mask layer. We won't be touching it too much. I just want to add a bit of drop down shadow, cast it from the ear. Going back to the skin layer and add some additional shading to her ears. Zoom out. Let's add the highlights now. Grab a bit of warmth. Put it underneath her nose. Okay, now I'm going to create a new layer. With the new layer, make the brush small. I'll paint on some strands that's separate from the line art. So I'll try not to go a little too crazy because I tried to do that with another panel of this comic and end up not looking too much like her. So I just want to try to stay within her hair design. After I do that, I'll do a little before and after to see if actually it's adding to the piece or not. I think it's adding to the piece. Alright, now that we have done that, let's go back to Genji real quick and work on his hair as well. I imagine this version of Genji, he would have a slightly darker shade of green. Originally, I paired them up because I was looking for like a sensor for Kiriko's butt. And I was like, what should I use to censor her butt? Okay. Genji's sword was perfect because it's pretty iconic and it's the right size to hide that area. So yeah, that's how that started. But I think they're pretty cute together. Adding some slight shading, but not too much. So as you can see, my inexperience of how to fill layer properly has resulted in these type of little areas that's missing paint and stuff, you can see. Okay, now that that's done, save it, and we're gonna port it back into Photoshop for the final edit. All right, this is always pretty fun, so I'm just gonna go open recent, and this is panel 2, so open recent, and it's gonna show up the update. It's always cool to see like the changes, so it's just gonna take a little while to update, and voila. So this is what we have now. I'll just create a new window and put it on my second screen so I can have a look. Always have a smaller version of your piece to look at. It helps with composition and stuff. So now that that's done, I'll just do what I usually do, which is just to edit a layer. So I'll just create a group. Oops. Put a random filter, doesn't matter what, normal. Make sure that the whole cuticle group or your character group is normal. And then create a new layer, clip it down. I used to say constraint, but now it's clip. That's the actual term for it. So now I basically am gonna paint, paint only on this group right here. Let's see, first we'll do this. Lighten, might be, let's go with screen. Darken that up. So I'll just attempt to add certain environmental color onto her. This helps create more atmosphere, I find. Zoom out. The hair area probably might be a bit too much, so I'll just erase some of that out. But as you can see, this is what that did, and it adds a little bit of atmosphere to the character. And then you can also adjust the color, play around with that. Sometimes you might find something you might like. But yeah, always go through those steps because you never know if you'll find something you like. So just always try a bunch of stuff. And it helps if you're picky like me, if you're always unsatisfied with everything you do. So you just keep on trying until hopefully you land on something that you'll like. But yes, it's good to always try it out. Try out that filter. And do a little before and after as well. Now that that's done, I'm going to, let's grab a nice cool tone. Gray is the opposite edge, the edge where it's supposed to be mostly shadow. I'll just add a little bit of that onto her area where it's in shadow. And then of course we must backtrack it a little bit. Take away some of that so it's not super intense or anything. Alright, so now just do a little before and after and you can see the effect it has. It does help incorporate the character a bit more into the background. Once you have the background done, of course. Create a new layer. Let's do overlay this time. And we're going to just try to intensify specific areas. You know, sometimes I might end up overdoing it, but it's better to overdo it than not do anything. So it's a bit too intense, of course, but we can easily remove some of that intensity easily. And also tone it down. And also play around with the color like this to see which color you like best. So that's Kiriko's rendering. Let's go ahead and do the same to Genji. Genji, yes, Genji. Create a new layer, clip that, make sure this is normal. If it's not normal, it's gonna go through the whole layer. Which I will give you guys a demonstration. See, this is what happens if your group is not on normal. It goes through the whole character layers. So we gotta put it in normals. So this method I actually found out accidentally, which is pretty funny because I was looking for a way to paint in a restricted area within a group. So just messing around with layers. Um, Good stuff can happen when you try stuff out. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's move on to Genji. And let's go ahead with a dark blue. And I would just want to graze the outer edge of him. Okay, right now my layer is set to normal. We have to set it to screen or something, or even lighten. We just want a smidget of that blue in there, not too much. I might have to erase some of that too. And then let's add a bit of warmth. Add some warmth to his robotic arm. There we go. Man, though, I need to figure out a way to get rid of like this clipping look. I will figure it out eventually. So now I go back into clean up the effect that I just did to reduce some of that intensity, but still having enough of it to help the character blend into the background. So I'll just play around with the opacity for a bit, do a little before and after, and then if I'm happy with it, I'm gonna go with that. And then, last but not least, we do the final editing. Yes, I have so many edits. I have lots of like these overlay and whatnot. Let's go to lighten, and we'll just do a general lighten around this area, and then lower the opacity, play around with the contrast, play around with the color, like everything. Go through everything until you find one that you like. So once you like it, we'll roll with that. And then in addition to this, sometimes I want to apply some photo effects, which Photoshop is great at. Like I'm super used to doing this with Photoshop. Let's see. I think I could probably put a lens flare in there. Probably look good, hopefully. I mean, it's got the right criteria. It's got intense sunlight source, so that meets the criteria for lens flare. So just grab one off of Google, screen, and let's see if we can make this lens flare work. Let's see here. I just wanted to create some nice cinematic for my comic. Because I still like rendering. It's just not gonna be as intense. Oh, yeah, no, this lens flare does not fit very well. Let's go with that Photoshop lens flare. This is a classic Photoshop generated lens flare. Let's do screen. And we are just going to adjust that. Well, I guess I'm not sure if I can find a place for it. After I place it, I will edit it, trying to edit that into the whole piece and making sure it somewhat fits. After that, create a new layer. I think this calls for some dust particles. You can do it manually, or you can make a brush for it. I'm kind of lazy, so I'll just do it manually. Some dust particles. Let's go ahead and apply a medium filter on them. What this does is just it smooth it out a little bit. So after I'm happy with that, I'm gonna go do color dodge and maybe add a little bit of glow around some of them. Not sure if this will work out that well, but hey, I'll give everything a shot. If I can think of it, and if I think it might make the piece look better, I'll give it a try. And it's subtle enough. Do a little before and after. It's just very subtle. Let's put it in color dodge. Really intensify it. Like this. Okay, as long as it's cute looking. Yep. And then last but not least, do the obligatory copy everything and then blurring it. Lower opacity, soft light, and then we're just going to intensify this layer. This is kind of just to enhance the color a little bit. So this is the edit on top, and voila, there we have the piece fairly done, and that didn't take as long as it would if I were to render everything out. But I find that if you have a good line art, this coloring on and all that would be a lot easier, because then I don't have to go back and edit the lines, which takes a lot of time. But yeah, I'm just gonna leave it as it is. I'll see you guys in the next voiceover. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll try to see if I can learn a few more things about the programs I'm testing out, and then I'll share them with you guys. Alright, see you guys later. Bye.